Welcome back if you're just joining us. This is still the Polity, reaching you live from Abuja. I've been joined in the studio now by an APC chieftain, a stalwart, and also a policy analyst. He is the SA media to AA Zara, particularly for the 2023 senatorial election. I'm speaking of Mr. Ibrahim Garba Iceman. He joins me now to do justice to the state of the nation and the issues at hand. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you for having me once again.
It's been a while. How have you been?
Well, it's been so good. We're taking a look at the state of the nation. And at the same time, when the invitation came for us to look at some of these issues being brought forward, well, I see it as an opportunity for me to equally add my voice on some of these issues that are coming up on a daily basis. We're equal to the task.
All right, that's fair enough. We spoke about these issues, before this resolution. Is it fair to say you saw it coming, and did everything play out exactly as you thought at the Supreme Court?
First and foremost, the first time I came here, when we're talking ahead of the 2023 general elections, I told you beforehand that APC party stand a better chance of winning the 2023 general elections, and I presented some facts before you at that time. Equally, before the election, we all knew what played out, because virtually everywhere you go, politicians came out to campaign and for votes. But again, we must give credit to the former President Muhammadu Buhari, by giving us a very good template to work with. That is the Electoral Act, which was amended. And don't forget that before the election as well, issues of vote buying was nipping the ball, because virtually everywhere we go, there's no money. You don't have the money to even do business, because that was the time we had this currency change or whatever that took place at that time. So it was practically very difficult for politicians to maneuver their way, to bribe voters and all that. So all those things played out at that time. So the only thing you have going for you is to go back to the grassroots and campaign based on your popularity, and at the same time, the way you appeal to Nigerians canvassing for votes. Now, between these 3 or 4 contenders we had at that time, you are aware that, yes, well, before time, APC have over 17 governors, campaigning for Mr. President, and they were with him almost everywhere he goes. But for Atiku and Peter Obi, they don't have those advantages. They don't have those support. I'll take you back a little bit to when Atiku did his flag off at the International Conference Center. I monitored some of these, I followed the development. What happened there? The only governor present at the campaign ground, or rather the inauguration of the campaign team, was the governor of Adamawa State. So where are the likes of Bukola Saraki, some of the big PDP stalwarts like Nyesom Wike-Akko? They were not there, to support his ambition. That is one. On the other side, don't forget that there were G5 governors working against his ambition. Now, some of these factors played out against Atiku before the elections. And these same people we are talking about, they have capacity to turn things around for him.
But he believes he won despite all of these challenges.
Now, I'm taking you back to what happened at that time, because if you are winning elections, it starts from somewhere. There must be a basis for that, because it starts from the grassroots. Do you have the capacity? Have you built relationships across board? Because people keep talking about, the Supreme Court, INEC and all that. Now, before then, what are those things you put on ground to win elections? Let's look at that in totality. People will ignore all these things, looking at the conduct of INEC, during the elections. I don't look at it from that perspective. Now, you have 36 states of the Federation, including Abuja, and you have the opportunity to market yourself. Atiku has this problem right from the beginning, because he doesn't have the support of the PDP governors and the PDP members across board. Anyway, he did well across board, and that was why there was no issues of vote buying. If money was available, we won't be talking about all these things, because prior to this time, between 1999 and 2011, we know how the role PDP played in terms of money politics and all that. So some of these things, played out during the elections. Now the table has turned. Atiku is so desperate, to get to power. But if you are desperate to get to power, you must begin by putting your house in order. And don't forget, even during the primaries, Peter Obi is supposed to be his running mate. Did that happen? No, they broke off. That should have added value to his campaign. Today we don't have to be talking about that if Atiku have, partnered with Peter Obi before the elections. Now, in another development, the case of Labour Party, Peter Obi, to me, I don't think Peter Obi should come out to complain, because the handwriting is on the wall. He has the mass support. But at the same time, how many governorship candidates does he have across the nation? How many of them do we have? Now, in 36 states and Abuja today, tell me where Labour Party won except Abia State, the governorship candidate. So, but if you look at it holistically, I see no reason why people should come out to disclaim the conduct of the 2023 general elections. INEC played, according to the rules of the game. INEC says, okay, we are going to, this election should be electronically transmitted. They use that word. Midway, remember, INEC is an umpire. They have the powers to change the rules of the game. If they sense any danger, if they sense any foul play, INEC definitely will change the rules of the game. Because we chose them, we gave them the mandate to be our empire. So some of these factors played out practically for every Nigerian to see. Now, if you go across the south, the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, Wiki held sway, and at the same time, don't forget, somebody like Akpabio also have played dominant role in the south. Now, coming to the south, yes, you can't compete with Peter Obi. Definitely, you can't compete with him. So, PDP, APC have lesser votes there. Then coming to the North Central, the same thing played out. It was shared among these 3 or 4 giants. But if you go to the Northeast, the Northwest, and the what do they call the Southwest, it's open for everybody to see that Tinubu definitely will hold sway. Why these things happen? Because one, there was a lot of time for people to plan their strategies. But it comes down to your capacity. Do you have the capital to move on? Do you have the capacity? Do you have the personnel to move across?
But this is a former vice president in a party that was in power for 16 years. Do you think they do not have the capacity to do all of this?
PDP was in power for 16 years. Between 2011 and 2019, a lot happened. Despite the fact that President Buhari met a lot of challenges on ground with lean resources, he did his part. He touched the lives of many people. You see infrastructural development. Practically, people were seeing these things. And at the same time, farmers most especially benefited from Mr. President. Businesses benefited. A lot of people, the only thing we had was that the mess, left behind by the PDP was too huge for APC to manage. Now, at the same time, you all agree that, okay, let us maintain this, let us maintain the status quo. Democracy is all what we choose to adopt. Why not we sustain that? Fine, we have agreed. We don't want anything like a military incursion. We don't want to see the negative, anything that will take us back again. Now that we agreed, go back to the grassroots and begin your campaign. Yes, Atiku, with due respect, is a huge name, a huge personality in the country, but not now again. A lot of people, they sat down, they looked at so many things worked against Atiku. In the first place, you were at war with Governor Nyesom Wike, because now, at that time, Wike deserved the ticket. This thing was zoned to the south, or rather the south. You never allowed that to happen. Wike was skinned out. Technically, he is angry, and he will pay back, and he promised, I did that. So, Labour Party is supposed to be a third force. But they came out with so much strength. If you can imagine, my brother, if Labour had partnered with PDP, it would be a walkover for them. Or if Konkoso have agreed to run with Labour Party, this thing, but in elections, it's all about strategies. I will not allow my opponent to take advantage of my weaknesses. We know the situation in the country at that time, but it was not invented by APC. APC came in to manage a badly damaged economy. And we are still battling to do that because, one, these monies are in the hands of heavyweights. And you have to fight these people to get the economy moving. So we are facing the consequences of inactions of so many people. That is where we are today. But again, as you know, coming in for the first time, Tinubu is not new to the game. He has been around several governments. He has you know, the records are there. In the southwest states, about 6 of them, Tinubu held these states down, and he carried them along. But on the part of Atiku, how many governors does he have as at 2019, as at 2023? It's only infantry. So those governors in PDP refused to align with him because of that singular act, not giving the South the opportunity to present a candidate. That alone worked against him. So if today, after the Supreme Court ruling, because I even told some of my friends in the PDP, I say, look, you are wasting your resources going to court. There's nothing to talk about. INEC has the mandate to conduct elections. INEC has the support of Nigerians to conduct the elections. INEC did its part, and they presented the result to Nigeria. It was transparent for everybody to see. Go to IREV, you see the result. Walk into INEC office. What did they present at the lower court as evidence to annul the elections? Nothing, and the court decided. You and I saw the judgment, which lasted over 12 hours. Every part, every judgment, every argument brought forward, this judiciary, the court sat, decided on every aspect of it, and Tinubu was declared winner. So what else are we looking for? It's about, taking the next step so that we can rebuild the nation and take it from where we are today.
Sure, that's fair enough. But let's quickly take a look at the proposals he made. The former vice president had some recommendations, one of which is mandatory electronic voting. These things, he says, will sanitize the system and make sure there's less of this. Like you said, you spoke to your PDP counterparts and you said they are wasting their resources.
Yes.
From the former vice president's perspective, if these things are done, there won't be need to quote unquote, use resources. It says there should be urgent constitutional amendments to prevent courts and tribunals from using technicalities and legal sophistry, according to him, to affirm electoral malpractices. Mandatory electronic voting, timely conclusion of election litigations. This has been a common suggestion by, a source of argument anyway between legal practitioners that everything should be done in such a way that it's all the litigations and all the
are concluded before swearing
all the way to the Supreme Court. And then he also suggested 2-round system, which is where the winner of the election must win more than half of the votes. So if you take, for instance, if total votes cast across board is 8 million votes, someone who doesn't score above 4 million votes cannot be declared winner. And that in the case that it happens, there should be a rerun until that is allowed. Then we have the single 6-year term with geopolitical rotation. According to Atiku Abubakar, a president should serve 6 years, and then the zoning, it should be zoned to each geopolitical zone, so that in a space of, let's say, 36 years, all zones would have had a chance to rule the country. What do you make of these recommendations? Is there any of them you feel is worth it to help our system? Are there others that you disagree with?
In the first place, I agree with you in certain areas, and Atiku for now, if let me assume he has thrown in the towel because he see it coming that there's no way he can win at the Supreme Court. Some of the things he wants to get to smuggle in, to present as an argument, it was too late at that time. We are looking at the technicalities and all that involved. Let me start with the single-year term. In the first place, several years back, there was that proposal that these countries should be, given the opportunity to present a candidate from each of these two geopolitical zones. But, in democracy, you understand that it's a game of numbers. You don't impose yourself on certain people. Okay, so be that as it may, if you say it's going to be a single 6-year term, well, I am not in the position to decide that. Members of the National Assembly should look into that, because what we want as a nation is something that will bind us together. And if we are looking at that, that means we should give people the opportunity to market themselves and at the same time present themselves for election. Come on, if I, as a person, want to come out for election, let me convince the people that have the capacity to do that,
regardless of
where I come from. And I'll take you back a little bit when Osibanjo was in office. That is during their first time. He spoke about this issue of naturalization and all that. That wherever the issue of a state of origin should be struck out of our constitution. If you're in Abuja or if you're in Akwa Ibom, wherever you find yourself, if the people accept, if you are there for say 5, 6, 7 years, you have the right to come out for election if those people accept you. Remember, Nigerians travel far and wide. Nigerians in UK today are in government, and in some other places we are playing role because having been there for some years give you the opportunities to serve. Look at the UK Prime Minister. It's an Indian. So Nigeria also have the same capacity to do. We can do that. Lagos, Kano, they present a good template for people to understand that it doesn't matter where you're coming from. If you settle down well within the community, yes, you can be given the chance, to raise your voice and contest for elections. So it depends on. To me, I don't see that as a problem. But for you to say 6 years single term, well, I will not take that decision. It's left for the members of the National Assembly to take that decision. Now, the other thing you talked about is the electronic voting. Yes, we use the beavers, okay, during the elections, and people, at the election, because I monitored the election in Kano State, wherever I go, the use of beavers, was almost everywhere you go. People have to be identified using the beavers before you are given, the opportunity to cast your vote. I think, to me, electronically that played a critical role, a very important role. But again, in terms of transmission, for me, there was maybe INEC identified a problem. And by doing that, they have to think of an alternative. And remember, in all the polling units around the nation, you have election observers, you have polling unit agents, you have the ROs, you have the ad hoc staff, everybody on queue doing his or her part. So your polling unit officer presents the original signed document, which was the result collated at every polling center, of which you can go to query. In some places, some people complain that they cast their vote, the numbers presented is not the same thing that was uploaded on the IREF. And IREF is, okay, tender these evidences. Nothing was there to prove by the other political parties at the lower court. So these are some of the things we're talking about, because practically everywhere you go, look at the results. The margin was not too wide because Nigerians were given the opportunity to vote and exercise their right. And it was so tight at that time, like I told you, to carry out vote buying was very, very difficult. So for me, it was 2023 was one of the most keenly contested elections in the country, and the INEC did its best. And what we should do as Nigerians first is to appreciate INEC for doing a good job, and at the same time President Buhari, the former president, for giving Nigerians the opportunity to vote and come out and vote for their choices. So I think INEC on its part, in terms of transmission, maybe they should start planning on improving on that, because you and I know technology is still, in doubt in some of these areas. The U.S. election that took place, that brought Joe Biden, it was highly contested and all that. The same thing for Donald Trump. These are advanced nations. So if technology can fail them, what about us, developing nations? So that is why it's very critical for us to look at things we can do that could improve our own lives. based on the knowledge which we have, because most of the voters are local, most of the voters across the nation, these are people that all what matters to them is to turn print and go home. You understand? So these are the challenges we face. I think the most important thing is, for me, if I should advise politicians, somebody like somebody like Peter Obi Atiku, is put your house in order before you come and consult widely. This thing is zoned to the south. Okay, what did the party PDP decide, or what should happen? Let us agree. Okay, fine. If it is zoned to the south, fair, let me step down. It's as simple as that. But because your own personal ambition overrides the party's interest, there's no way you succeed. And that is the rule of the game. So, and that is why the biggest beneficiary is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he puts his card on the table. He didn't come out to say, Mr. Perfect. No, he went through the whole processes from the primaries and all that. He contested like any other person. Remember, about 21 of them contested with him, but he won. How did he win? He's not in government. He's not part of those that make decisions and all that. So if Tinubu, you know, being what he is, and at the same time winning, carrying to bear the flag, to fly the flag of the party and eventually win, I think we should give him credit for doing that, because Nigerians came out and voted for him massively. I will tell you that. Go to any, and at the same time, you know, my brother, what I'm not happy about is everybody has his own past, okay? But demarketing somebody, you know, and blackmailing someone simply because you could not get what he has done, I think to me it's not fair enough for Nigerian politics. We can't grow from here.
What of the idea that people believe the highest office in the land must have the cleanest or the most pristine history? You know, that's what the former vice president keeps saying, that he wants the best of the best to be there, and that is why he has been going after the president in the manner he has. Well,
he's free, is entitled to his own opinion. Atiku was in government with President Olusegun Obasanjo, right? For 2 terms. Okay? Are you telling me nobody amongst them have a dirty past? They all have it. Okay? But what matters to us is this. The best thing to happen to this nation is that let us begin to think of, you know, how we can restructure the polity so that it can favor all these geopolitical zones. That is one. Then the Federal Character Commission should be strengthened in such a way that people should be given the opportunity to serve, so that it should not be the exclusive preserve of certain people to take over certain positions. But I'm seeing that happening right now, because Tinubu is a man of strong character, a man that has vision. He knew the challenges Nigeria have, so he has set the ball rolling. So I think the most important thing for us is looking inwards and, you know, homegrown solutions to help us move from where we are today. It's not time for, it should not be a time for us to be, you know, blowing hot and cold, attacking one another, pulling down institutions and all that. I think we should be thinking beyond all these things now.
That's fair enough. What about the other amendment? I don't know if we've covered all of them.
Yeah.
All right. The issue about constitutional amendments so that the courts don't rule on technicalities, as they say.
You see, like I said, the ball, rather the onus lies on the members of the National Assembly. I think as Nigerians, we should believe that we have, you know, qualified people at the National Assembly. These people pass through the voters' test, and we all agree that yes, they should represent us at the National Assembly. So we should give them that benefit of the doubt. They should decide what is best for this country. That is one. Number two, if that will work, the same people at the National Assembly should decide that for Nigerians. What
even the issue of
yes,
51%.
Of course. You know, the Electoral Act is still subject to amendments. They can do that. They have the powers to, you know, look into this matter. Like some days ago, I was watching with a television station in which in Dumi, Mohammed Dumi was a guest on the program. He mentioned it that there were, bills he wants to sponsor, but he never see the light of day because some people fail to understand the importance of that bill. For instance, if all petitions have to be treated before someone is sworn in, it is, within the purview of the National Assembly to work on that, and at the same time give Nigerians what is best for them. Remember, it's expensive going to courts. Very expensive. How much you pay lawyers going to court on a daily basis is a lot of money. They spend a lot of money. And the more expensive, the more technical it becomes. So if after elections, say maybe you give 70 days, okay, after election for any candidate to be sworn in, and a special tribunal, just like the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is being set up, you give them the mandate that all electoral cases be decided within the space of 70 days, or if you give them if you give them the charge, definitely we'll see something like that happen. Whereas, these cases has to go through a long process, bringing up evidences and all that. It's really tough. But I will commend the judiciary for doing a very good job of that.
All right, that's fair enough. Hopefully we get to see more amendments. Like we say, when we encounter issues, legislation can always be there to help us, save the day. But now, in a trending video, I saying the president could be seen talking to his aides and telling them your job is safe. And a lot of Nigerians have, been having fun with that. What's your take on now that the Supreme Court judgment is, is final? There's no going back on it. The other day, the president met with the German chancellor and said that the distractions were now past. What is now the way forward now that it has been fully resolved? Going ahead now with governance. But before we continue, let's take a listen from one of our callers there. Good afternoon. What's your name and where are you calling from? This is the Polity.
Hello, Amadi.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, afternoon. Akim calling from Lagos.
All right, that was good. It's good to hear from you.
Oh yeah, quite a long time. Okay. I want to comment on the suggestions the former vice president was giving. One of them that I would like to pick is that of 1 term 6 years. You understand? And 6 political zone, right? I think that one is fair enough. But where I'm going against is that 51%. You know why?
Why?
Now, if he's talking about 51%, that a candidate must score 51%, that will not be fair to the minority who are not going to have enough people to vote for them, which means Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba will always take the advantage. You understand? So the simple majority is just the perfect, is okay. Alright? Then the electoral system, issue of transmission and the beavers. Of course, the beavers is already a law, it's in the law, but that transmission of the thing is not part of the law. Alright? So, and to make it a law, let us think critically. If you make that transmission a law, it will become a very dangerous situation for Nigeria. You know the reason?
Wow.
Nigeria was very crafty. If you say that transmission must be done maybe within a day during that election before the next day, politicians that know that they are not going to win that election, they will find best hackers that will hack that server to prevent INEC from delivering. And when INEC is unable to deliver, when it is next day and INEC is not unable to deliver, there will be chaos around the country. That's just it. That's one. The last thing, my brother, it's a good idea when our lawyer is suggesting that there should be electoral whatever process before swearing in president to be precise, right?
Mm.
I buy that idea, but what I'm just looking at is, I'm looking at, is that too not going to be a problem as well? Because if at the end of the day, an election is carried out, and well, anyway, I don't know, I can't really bring out any strong point in this, but I'm suspecting there could be an issue. But on that issue of 51%, let us not bring that idea, because number one, and apart from the reasons I brought in, cost of governance. If you say 51%, it will be very difficult to, especially this kind of last election we had, which is very, very competitive. It will be very, very hard to have that kind of thing. Then there are going to be re-elections. From whose pocket? Is it for the Nigerian masses that have not eaten enough that you are going to be spending another money to rerun that election? Let's look at it critically, but I commend the former vice president for suggesting, especially that 6 years, 1 term, 6 zone is the perfect suggestion. Thank you. And thank you to your analyst. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling. All right. You've laid out the points there. This is why it's always good to hear from Nigerians and what they believe. So, like I said, President Tinubu basically said distractions are over, work continues. What's your take on how things should be going forward?
Like you know, there was tense atmosphere during this period because a lot of people, you know, were like, okay, what should happen now? What will happen the tribunal? But again, I was so confident about the outcome of the judgment at the Supreme Court, because there's no way after the ruling by the lower court you want to still maybe seek further hearing. I think to me at that time it was a very difficult one for them. And Tinubu now, all what he needs now is to open up the economy. There are so many policies he's rolling out, and with the appointment of some of these ministers, about 40, I think it's time for us now to look at the economy, what should be done in the immediate term and long term. And he has set the ball rolling with the hosting of the German Chancellor. You know, the other time, I think over the weekend, we see already the German High Commissioner to Africa or so that was hosted by Mr. President.
It was the German Chancellor.
Okay, the German Chancellor. Okay, so and you know, already suitors are coming from far and wide, and we are talking about partnership across the world. The Chinese government, they are ready to partner with us. Same thing with India. Now Germany are here, and very soon I'll see, you know, UK coming in. So it's time for partnership, because they know we have, our economy is so weak that you know, trading becomes very difficult. But I believe that with the improvement we are seeing, especially in the power sector and the oil and gas sector, in which some of the refineries, I believe by December they start working, and we're making it attractive for investors to come in. I believe it won't be long. Nigeria will begin to see a relief, begin to witness relief at the end of the day. But again, like I always say and caution us, is let us be patient with this man, because these are unnecessary distractions. We don't need to overheat the polity like Atiku, you know, is doing at the moment. Even if you are going to advise, must he be publicly announcing and denouncing some of these decisions that were taken by, you know, the Supreme Court?
You feel it should have other methods to go?
There are other, you see, whether I like it or not, if at that level they are friends, okay? Atiku, with due respect, is an elder statesman. He has a lot to give this country, same thing as Peter Obi. Okay, the judgment is over. It's about time for us to shake hands, congratulate each other, and say, okay, what do we do going forward? Okay, we most of these politicians, most of the candidates talked about, you know, subsidy removal. That was done immediately. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into office. You know, some of the things they were proposing are some of the things we are saying now. But again, you should not forget that this economy, Nigeria is so broke at the moment, and we're trying to see how we can get out of the bottom. And these things happen because politicians held on to our funds. Well, I will not generalize it, but again, this is something in the public domain where you have issues within the EFCC. People are being called upon to, to report, to attend to some of the, corrupt practices that took place during their tenure.
I guess we even have others that don't have to do with corruption. In terms of government spending.
Yes.
Over 100 million naira on cars. These are also issues, don't you think?
No, certainly these are issues. But again, Amadin, I would like to tell you, for so long, this economy has been, in bad shape, because some people even cash out recently in Nigeria and all that, like the P&ID case, over $11 billion would have been lost. There's so much money in public places that were lost due to, unpatriotic acts of some of these Nigerians at the highest level of governance. So some of these things, we want to reverse them. And that is why I support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision on the EFCC and the CBN governor who was arrested and other people. And I believe the more they carry out more arrests, the more money will come back to the economy. And again, the chief CGN is, trying to, extradite the former petroleum minister, Desani Alice Umadoke. These are people that went away with our money. So what we need now is a situation whereby Nigerians should own up and say, okay, yes, we're wrong with some of the things we did while in office. It's time for us to see what we can do to help our nation to grow. All right,
just quickly, if you can do a little bit more on the P&ID case, what are your thoughts on that?
It's supposed to be a deal whereby we are supposed to convert wet gas to lean gas, and there were some, the P&ID came in with a briefcase, to trade with our economy. At the end of the day, we found out there are so many fraudulent issues because there was no infrastructure on ground for that to take place in the first place. So why should we trade with somebody that came with a portfolio, a briefcase, trading the nation on our behalf and all that? So I'm happy they instituted the case right from the time of Yar'Adua's administration, before Buhari, set up a panel on that same case. During the PDP era, we know what transpired. It's just like what happened during the Bakassi Peninsula. So, when Buhari set up the panel, we know what happened. They followed the case. At that level, I knew about $474 million was supposed to even change hands on that case as well. But thank God for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We have a legal team, and the UK government, the judiciary, when they started, they discovered that it's all about fraud. Nigeria is to be traded off almost 11-point-something billion. It's a lot of money.
Yes.
So I think the government has hit the ground running, and Tinubu, for what he's doing, I believe he will not spare anyone involved in incorrupt practices this time around.
All right.
Yeah.
Just out of, will I say it, for the sake of posterity, it's also good to know that a portion of the, will I call it, credits also goes to the former administration.
Yeah, of course.
Particularly, the vice president, I believe, was one of those who said that they must...
Professor Yemi,
yes, Professor Yemi,
professor of law.
Yes, he noted that there must be widespread investigation across board, and that was one of the things that led to the judgment. So, but we've run out of time on this particular issue. This is where we draw the curtains for now on the Supreme Court matter and other developments. We'll go on a short break, but you indulge us a bit while you react to another issue that is currently making the rounds very hotly. Thank you so much for coming, for speaking on this particular issue.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll go on a short break, a very short break. When we return, we'll be delving into the issue in Rivers State, what's currently going on, and the contention and alleged impeachment plot against the governor. Stay with us, we'll be back immediately.